My Friday afternoon broadcast to talk about the most culturally significant slash difficult topics to talk about. And today's topic is going to be boundaries. Woo! Holy mackerel. Everyone needs boundaries. Boundaries, interestingly enough, we begin to so there's two levels of boundaries. There are your karmic boundaries that you were taught in other lifetimes based on your life experience that you bring in spiritually to this incarnation with this body and this mind and this experience. Then there are those boundaries that we are taught or that we emulate from those in authority around us. And those in authority around us could literally be anyone. So things that we've picked up on along the way. And one of the first teachings of boundaries in our young little lives is the way we relate to food and money, but food is the very first one. So a child's first experience of power is how they relate to food and whether or not they can control what goes in their mouth and what comes out the other end. Those are the two ways that people relate to power and to boundaries. So when a child acts up because they don't want to eat a certain kind of food, or you force a certain kind of food on them, or whatever, just even the nursing from infancy, how a child is taught to relate to their food intake teaches them a relationship to boundaries moving forward, and will certainly give them the confidence and experience to be able to set solid, definitive boundaries with other human beings as they grow older. So I want to read to you a few things about boundaries from my book, Conquer Your Karmic Relationships. Every time I do a chat cast, I look up the topic in this book to see how many times it's repeated. And I repeated boundaries 53 times. Boundaries is a topic that we all need practice with. And even as adults, boundaries just aren't a given. We really do have to learn to cultivate them, and cultivate them in different scenarios in our life, whether it be personally or professionally. Ultimately, I don't believe we actually have different dimensions of life, because we are the same person. And ultimately, hopefully we will all gain the ability to be the same person in every facet of life in which we participate, which means, in work or business or social activities, that we learn to feel comfortable enough to be who we are in every aspect. However, one of the things I think that happens a lot with people is when you're in a working scenario, or you are in relationship to somebody whom you believe can give you something, or that you need them for something, that creates a shift in the way in which a person will relate to setting a boundary. So I want to talk about a couple of things. And the first thing that I want to talk about, the first topic in regards to boundaries, excuse me, are in regards to karmic relationships. Now, when I wrote the book on karmic relationships, I knew that there were deeper levels of understanding of karmic relationships. Of course, my whole life I've related to karmic relationships, and every person that I have had any kind of relationship with on some level has been moved through in regards to my karma. But the thing that I was able to really begin to articulate, I don't know who's coming through here, but I can't wait to talk to her. The thing that I began to be able to articulate was relationships are based on our patterns. So how we interact with other people is based on our unconscious beliefs, our experience, and then what we've been taught. And so our karmic relationships, ultimately every relationship that we engage in it based on our patterns. So every relationship is our karma. Every relationship is a karmic relationship based on how we want to participate. Now, certain partners will bring out certain things in us. If we have the lowest common denominator that we connect with any human being on is going to, that's going to be the basis for the relationship, and then we grow from there. But let's see, here we go. So I wanted to just touch base with the goal of all soulmate relationships, all karmic connections, is to cultivate love on every level. Unconditional love, love with boundaries, and ultimately unmistakable, unshakable love of ourselves and the Creator. And so our goal is to learn to be ourselves, set boundaries with others, and be able to trust the relationship that we create, because we trust ourselves and we trust our relationship to our highest self or the Creator. Another thing that we relate boundaries to is power, our sense of personal power. And our sense of personal power, believe it or not, comes first from our sense of personal responsibility to ourselves. How we are accountable to ourselves for what we do, for the actions we take, for the knowledge we have, and for the impact that we have on others. We can't control what others do, but we can certainly have awareness of the impact of who we are on others. And so when you are willing to acknowledge yourself on that level, it creates this whole other energy around you that puts you in a position to not have to demand respect, but to command respect in the space where you stand. And when one does that, and we all know when we see those people who command respect, it's just a natural thing. Like you wouldn't want to do something inflammatory or to do something dismissive to a person who really commands the space that they live in. So that's another way that we set boundaries, is energetically by how we feel about ourselves. It also allows us, and this is the thing that we're all relating to right now in terms of our karmic relationship to the authorities in our life. So it could be our parents, it could be our elders, it could be the police or the military, it could be teachers, whatever the authority figures are in your life. The more we teach ourselves, the more we embrace ourselves, the more we're able to stand up in our own skin and say yes or no to what we agree with or what we don't agree with. But it allows us a cushion of space and energy that creates a respect. There's a level of respect that is generated from how we feel about ourselves. And this is probably like the third time I've said this in this last 8 minutes. I say it a little differently every time, but it really comes down to the same thing. When you love yourself, when you respect yourself, when you honor the impact that you have in the world and the authority that you have in the world, it requires something different of people on an unconscious level. It's not like they even have the opportunity to think about whether or not they want to respect you. They just walk in and kind of have to step into a whole other position of respect because you have set that boundary. So that's what I have for you today. Is there a few people watching? Does anybody have questions? I'm not sure if they'll come through here. I'm broadcasting live to YouTube and to Facebook, but I don't have YouTube up. So if there's any questions, now would be the time. If anybody wants to pick up a copy of Conquer Your Karmic Relationships, please do that. It's a manual for what's going on in the world today, and it gives you some really important insight that can trigger your own insight, your own spiritual knowledge, your own sense of yourself and what you need at any given time. And so that's what I feel is really valuable about it. Hi, Melanie. She says, I totally believe that that's true. How we manifest our energy allows us to relay boundaries. Yes, yes, and yes. Well, this has been terrific. Thank you so much for tuning in with me today on Chatcast. And again, this has been Tracee Dunblazier, and I hope you have a magnificent Friday afternoon and a wonderful weekend. Be good to yourself.